Hey everybody, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus a little bit of insight into what it all means. Joining us as always is Jon Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California. You know, some people dread Mondays, and I understand, but I love them because it means we get to get back to movie talk.
Also here is Jon Schnepp.
Some people dread autobiographies, but when I write mine, I'm going to include all of you, and you know who I'm talking about.
Also, here's Mark Ellis.
I'm actually excited for this Monday because I get to show the world how Ashley Mova dances. Are you guys ready?
Hey!
She just washes, waxes on,
It's
waxes
so not
off.
choppy, Mark. How do you do it?
I'm amazing.
Well, guys, it's Monday, which means it's time for our weekend box office report brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. Coming in at number one for the second week in a row is the NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton, bringing in $26.7 million, dropping 55% from its first week, which is respectable considering there were 3 new wide release films this week. Coming in at number 2 is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, making $11.7 million, dropping only 31% in its third week, bringing its domestic total up to $157 million. In third spot is the horror sequel Sinister 2, making $10.6 million, exceeding its modest $10 million production budget. In the number 4 spot is Hitman Agent 47, only making $8.2 million on its opening weekend. Rounding out the top 5 is The Man from U.N.C.L.E., bringing in $7.4 million on its second weekend, dropping just 41% from last week. Jon, what stood out to you about this week's box office report?
2 things that really stand out to me. Man from U.N.C.L.E., only dropping 41% from week 1 to week 2. Goes to show strong word of mouth. It was a good, fun film. I was really glad to see that. Another thing that really stands out is on Friday, all 3 of us completely botched and butchered our box office predictions.
Right.
I think we all nailed Straight Outta Compton coming in at number 1. None of us got number 2 right. Then we floundered somewhere in 3 and 4. But that leads us to the other thing. We all said American Ultra was going to be in the top 5, and that's the other thing that stands out. American Ultra did not even crack the top 5. And I don't see, some people were tweeting me and asking me, is this a condemnation on Jesse Eisenberg? That nobody wanted to go and see Jesse Eisenberg. And I don't think it is at all, to be honest. Like I said last week, I found the marketing of American Ultra to be incredibly bland. None of it appealed to me. The only thing that caught my attention was a clip that came out that premiered exclusively on Collider.com, as a matter of fact, with that grocery store action scene. That's the only thing that made me go, oh, well, maybe this is all right. Other than that, all the trailers looked incredibly bland to me. Nothing looked interesting. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised that it didn't come in the top 5, although I think all of us still put it in our top 5. Anyway, what on the box office report stands out to you?
I mean, Hitman, at least kudos to Hitman because the marketing made me know that there was a movie called Hitman Agent 47 that was coming out this week because I really wasn't that aware of Sinister 2, and I work in the space, no idea American Ultra was coming out. You see billboards, you see quick ads for it, you have no idea what the movie's about, and apparently I didn't see American Ultra. I missed the screening for it. I heard it's pretty good, which is a shame that it didn't do better because maybe if they had a little more confidence in it, it would have done well. You have Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart in there, and my twin Topher Grace. It should have at least been able to crack the top 5. It's nice to see 2 spy movies in the top 5. Like
right.
it shows
3 actually.
People still
sorry,
the
2.
NWA wasn't really spies; they were more rappers. It's nice.
That's
to see
how good of a spies that they
That's
are.
right.
You
So
didn't even
undercover.
know.
Deep cover.
That's right. Hey, look, Ice Cube can play a spy in his new movie Cubed, coming out next year.
By the way, last week we asked people, guys, Schnepp mentioned something about Ice Cube, Iced Tea, Vanilla Ice, and I said, hey, you guys make us some posters, and I should have brought some in because you guys sent us some amazing
They were awesome.
feature film posters for Ice Cubed, starring Ice Cube, Vanilla Ice, and Iced Tea. They were just awesome. Thank you so much. And maybe American Ultra would have made a little bit more money if the heads of the studio went, you know what? Let's just tell people that is Mark Ellis. And I bet you anything, more interest would have been generated in it. Anyway, Schnepp, what stands out to you on the box office?
Yeah, obviously the big missing American Ultra, you know, and the weirdest thing is when you look at their ad campaigns, it always reminded me of like a 1960s like San Francisco Zap comic. It didn't feel like it was a movie. It looked like it was the cover of a magazine, like a hipster magazine. So I think the posters and their ad campaign failed. Also didn't have a date, like prominently, like coming this whatever date it's supposed to be coming out. So I didn't know it was coming out, and like until we started talking about it last week. Oh, it's coming out this weekend. And then the trailers themselves were kind of all over the place. Like I liked a lot of parts of the trailers, like, oh, it's a stoner spy, and then he becomes kind of a Bourne Identity thing. But then those Topher Grace scenes that you were in were like so weirdly overacted. It threw me out of even the trailer.
Yeah, I get excited on set. Sorry.
So, I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. All my friends said it's really fun, so I'm going to see it. It's a disappointment that other people didn't go see it. That's the big thing that stands out to me, as well as Mission Impossible. Just staying at number 2.
Yeah,
that's
none of us
pretty
mentioned
amazing.
That's a good thing to mention. Yeah, which is a testimony to like how good that film is, and it is one of the, if arguably the best film of the summer.
Yeah, action
really
film. I mean, just the word of mouth. Everybody who left that theater the night that I saw it, we were just like, "Oh my god!" and we just told everyone. So.
A couple of things that let's give some credit to where credit's due. Ashley mentioned it, but hey, kudos to Sinister 2 and Blumhouse once again. $10 million budget. Yeah. Once again, Blumhouse they know how to do this, man. They crank out these films on lunch money, and they become profitable. It already exceeded its production budget of $10 million just domestically in its opening week. So good for Blumhouse again. And with Agent 47, I finally found out how much it cost them to make the Agent 47, which was $35 million. A very modest amount. It's going to keep them from losing too much money on that film, but it just highlights again, man, they tried to make a $100 million movie on a $35 million budget, and it really showed.
Oh, you know what I was going to mention about Sinister 2 is it's just indicative of this year. Horror films across the board have all made money. Every single horror film that's been released has made its money back.
Right, but a horror movie that comes out now in August should do better. I'm sorry. Like Sinister 2, I wasn't a fan of it. I was disappointed by it. With the name brand like Sinister, the first one was a really good movie. It should have done better than $10 million. I don't care how much money it cost to make. Right. It should have been around 15 to 20.
You're just mad because you predicted it to come in second place on your box office.
I'm so upset. My kids are now going to have to go to public school.
All right, what's next?
In the last few days, 3 major films of 2016 have wrapped principal photography. Captain America Civil War, X-Men Apocalypse, and Independence Day 2 all completed their principal shooting and now head to post-production. Mark, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your anticipation level for each of these films?
I'm glad you asked, Ashley. I love this game. Can I give 10 to all 3 movies? I can't wait to see, because Independence Day 2, let's be honest, it could be a sci-fi Sharknado train wreck if they really wanted it to be. I can't wait. I just want to see the trailer. I want to see what the storyline is, how aliens come back to Earth. Oh, and by the way, we don't know where Will Smith is. We can't find Captain Hill, so we have to find somebody else to save the galaxy. Randy Quaid ain't going to be involved in that one either. So I have no idea. That is such an unknown beast to me that I'm intrigued. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10, okay? And then if I have to choose one over the other, it's like the end of The Good Son where I have to choose which kid to save. I'm going to save Civil War. That's going to be a 10 out of 10 for me, even though there are a couple things that I'm not sure of in the storyline from you and I. We saw the D23 footage, and I'm like, wait, what are the stakes here? I still got to give that a 10 out of 10, and I'm going to give X-Men Apocalypse just like a 9.9 out of 10. So I take Civil War just a hair over X-Men Apocalypse.
Now, I am very, very stingy with when I rate movies, whatever. I've only given like a handful of movies 10s in my career. I am very stingy with handing out 10s. Right now, there are only 2 films in all of the films coming up between now and forever that I would give a 10 out of 10 on my anticipation list. And that is Batman v Superman, and that is Star Wars The Force Awakens. The 10s are reserved for those 2 films. But I am looking forward to all 3 of these films. Like, I've been talking about the Independence Day thing. Look, you're talking about a world now that's had like 20 years. I can't remember if they're saying it's been 20 or 30, but whatever. Let's, for argument's sake, say 20 years. They've been in possession now of all this alien technology for 20 years. They know these aliens are going to come back, and now they've been working for 20 years to adapt this technology, weaponize it, all that kind of stuff. So now we can actually see a legit Earth versus aliens battle when they come back. That's intrigued me. I like the names that are returning and all that kind of stuff. So I am looking forward to this film. I'm excited about it. I give my anticipation on that a 7. I am with... Next, I'm going to go with Captain America Civil War. I'm going to give my anticipation on that an 8. I like what I saw at D23, but like you, we still don't really know what's going on, because, I mean, we understand the comic book storyline, but this is the movie. They ain't going to follow the comic book storyline too tightly. We still don't know how much involvement Spider-Man's going to have. We still don't know a lot of stuff, but I'm still super stoked for it because the last Captain America blew my socks off. I give that one an 8. But I will give the crown in this little competition to X-Men Apocalypse. Days of Future Past crushed it. Bryan Singer's at the helm again. They're bringing in Apocalypse. This is not on the same level of Batman vs. Superman, but Apocalypse in an X-Men movie is what I have been waiting for. So I'm going to give that an 8.5 out of 10. It probably would have been a 9 if I liked the look of Apocalypse a little bit more, but still super stoked for the movie. So that's how I rank them. What about you?
All right, so let's start with not a 10. Independence Day 2, or whatever it's going to be called when they finally figure it out, with the returning Judd Hirsch with technology from 20 years ago. I give it a 2. I could care less about this film. I'm irritated that it even exists. I know we were joking about ID Forever and all the other crappy titles I had. Originally, they're going to shoot 2 of them. I think it's a joke. It's clownish. It's stupid. I want to be proven wrong that this movie is not a waste of time.
I think Vivica A. Fox is going to do that. She's going to prove that exotic dancers can go on to save the world.
I'm filled with vitriolic hatred towards this film until I see that trailer and it proves different. It just seems incredible, like giant waste of money. Buckets of millions of just wasted money. All right, so let's move on to the 2 good films. X-Men Apocalypse, I give that a 9, and I give Civil War both a 9. Because they're like, you're right. I mean, for me, Batman v Superman, that's the 10 that has to get chiseled away. It's probably an 11. I'm like, raise it up a notch. It's going to 11.
Yes, because it goes to 11.
It goes to 11. Batman v Superman, it goes to 11. It does. That's just where it's at. Also Star Wars. That's at 11 as well. I'm a horrible accent. Sorry, guys. But yeah, I'll give them both a 9 because I'm incredibly excited. And next year is the year that we get like Captain America versus Iron Man, Batman versus Superman. It's crazy. Star Wars is coming out in like 4 months.
And just on the name brand recognition of Spider-Man is going to be in an Avengers movie.
Crazy.
That is automatically a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, you know what, Ellis? I'm going to move it up to 9.1.
What's it going to take for me to put you in Civil War today?
What's it going to take to put you into a Lexus today? All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show now for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Ashley's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. And then the rest of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell. So, Ashley, what do we got?
Actor Vin Diesel is no stranger to returning to former roles that he found success with, and now, according to an Instagram post he put up, he's getting ready to do it again. As first reported on Collider.com, Diesel has announced that he is returning to the roles of Xander Cage for XXX3, which will begin production in December in the Philippines. Diesel did not appear in XXX2 State of the Union, in which Ice Cube took on the lead role, also claiming that Diesel's character Cage had been killed in action. Schnepp, buy or sell Vin Diesel bringing us XXX3.
I buy this. I love the first XXX, and the second XXX was a gigantic box office bomb, and nobody went to see it. I didn't see it, so I feel sorry for Ice Cube, but it doesn't matter because he's worth like $1.4 million or something. He's got, doesn't have to worry about any of these XXX movies. But I think, they should, in this XXX3, they should announce that Ice Cube's character is dead. Like right at the beginning, Vin Diesel's reading his paper. It's like, oh, that's too bad about that guy. Jumps off the Eiffel Tower or something. I totally buy this. I can't wait to see Vin Diesel do this character again.
I'm going to buy it. I did not love the first XXX, but it certainly has things going for it a lot. That a Vin Diesel today, going back to a movie like that, and it'll be really interesting to see him do this type of a movie without the ensemble cast around him like he has in Furious 7. And that's going to be one of the big distinctions between what Fast and Furious franchise is and what this XXX franchise is. Because you'd be forgiven if you think, man, there's an awful lot of similarities to what's going on here, but that would be fine. XXX State of the Union. I remember walking into XXX State of the Union and saying, wait a minute, now we have a pudgy big action hero. I remember, and Ice Cube looks great these days. He totally looks great, and I like Ice Cube, but that was a bad decision for Ice Cube himself, and that was a bad decision for the studio.
Bad decision for Rob Cohen, the director.
Oh yeah, it was just a whole lot of bad stuff in that. Although I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of jokes about this before, but we were in our pre-production meeting today, and Ashley goes, because Ashley researches all the stories before we do something. She goes, I went to research XXX. That was a mistake.
Not even 11 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen.
It seems like, there we go. Anyway, but I am going to give it a buy.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. And look, first of all, John, Ice Cube, as a former fat kid, Ice Cube is not pudgy, he's husky. There's a huge difference there. This is a buy for me, and I'm not thrilled about it. These puppy dog eyes have actually never witnessed XXX, either one of them, but I get that it's one of Vin Diesel, or he made that franchise, and then he wasn't a part of the second one because, much like the Fast and Furious franchise, he wanted to go off and do other things, and those other things maybe didn't pan out exactly the way he wanted to. I would much rather see him focus on Riddick than I would XXX. Triple X if I had the choice between those two. But this isn't like a Tom Cruise and Jack Reacher 2 situation where I'd rather see original content from this person, because Vin Diesel, he's a good actor, but his range is in action films squarely. He's not going to go win an Oscar doing some political thriller, in my estimation. So this is a smart move for him, and I think it's going to make a lot of money. I think it's the right time. They're going to market it well. Triple X 3 is going to make a lot of money.
You know, for a lot of people, though, if you want to see a different side to Vin Diesel, there's this little movie that he did that a lot of you guys haven't seen. It's called Find Me Guilty. Check that out. He's actually really quite impressive in it. And you might be surprised by a whole different level of Vin Diesel. All right, what's next?
Terminator Genesis may have bombed at the North American box office, making just under $90 million domestically, but even though it looked like any sequel possibility had died, the international box office just might save it. According to reports, Genesis just opened in China, making over $27 million in its first day, bringing its worldwide box office total up to a respectable $353 million. This makes the fifth Terminator film a profitable one for the studio, and has raised the issue if a sequel to the new film could still be in the cards. John Byers said that we will see a sequel to Terminator Genesis.
You know, if you'd asked me this 2 weeks ago, I'd say no, clearly, just with the domestic box office alone. And even the foreign numbers were okay, but it wasn't enough to salvage it. But it's just kept rolling, and far more than the studio anticipated. China has responded to it very well. Now you're saying, like, you got a $155 million movie that's now crossed that threshold of what they needed to be profitable, with about $350 million. They needed to cross that $300 million mark to be profitable after P&A and theater cuts and stuff like that. But they did it now. This is now a profitable movie. Now, some people will say, well, there still can't be a franchise because in a couple years, the rights revert back to James Cameron. What do you think James Cameron's going to do with the franchise? He's not making more Terminator movies. Right. He's going to then relicense it back to the studio again. That's what's going to happen here. Look, I'm certainly not going to guarantee that another Terminator, a sequel to this to Genesis, or Genisys as you so affectionately call it, I'm not going to guarantee it, but I think the chances today are a lot bigger than they were before. I'll go so far as to say a 52% chance. So at 52, I have to say bye. Schnepp, what do you think? Are we going to see a sequel to Genesis?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I finally saw the Terminator film, and I'd say Terminator salvaged this instead of salvation. It was like, I couldn't believe. I mean, I liked the beginning of it, and then it just started to just fall off. And then I think they fired everybody. Like, the script continuity person got fired because they had a countdown. Like, we only have 4 minutes to save the world, and they were walking. You know,
chatting, having a leisurely stroll, just chatting about.
I don't know if you're going to have sex with me, and then I'm going to create John Connor. You know, just like, you should be running at this moment. This 4 minutes to save the entire world. There's no time for chit chat. Every shot should be them running by those catwalks, and like everything was leisurely and like walking up the stairs. I remember, like, what's going on? I was angry, sitting there, angry in the seats, because like no one's paying attention. They're like, let's make sure we nail that dialogue. It's like unbelievable. That's all I could say. No one was paying attention to the script. So.
I agree. Brisk jogging should have been employed at the end of Terminator Genesis. If I was a man with a crippling gambling addiction, which I am, I would bet that Terminator Genesis does get a sequel, because look, it's basically like playing roulette. That's red, and then black would be James Cameron getting the rights back and deciding to do something else with Terminator, which I'm not told he's not going to do that he doesn't have some cool idea in his head, but he seems a little preoccupied with the Avatar universe to not just sell Terminator back to somebody else. Now, Genesis, this actually could be really good news, and stay with me on this, is that it made money. It's making money overseas, but it's not crushing it. It was not a hit domestically, so maybe if they make a sequel to Terminator Genesis, they pull back the budget a little bit, and they use something which I like to call a creative idea. Oh my God, you mean like the first Terminator in 1984? Wouldn't that be awesome if they made it for a smaller budget, but it actually had something interesting to say? I don't know if you could bring back all the characters you had in Terminator Genesis. I don't know that you need to bring them back. It'd be great to see Arnold again. I thought Emilia Clarke was good enough as Sarah Connor, so I'd like to see them. Be interesting to see what they do with Doctor Who as the bad guy. So there's some things that show potential in this, and it's a slight yes, but I think that it will happen.
Yeah, see, I walked out of Terminator Genesis because we all saw it on the same night. And I remember walking out and I was like, I didn't hate that. I didn't hate that. But I remember one of the things that really bothered me, and this goes to what you were just saying that they really need to do if they do in the next one. What bothered me is getting to the point now that the Terminators are magic. Like they've gone to the point where, look, you can't convince me this is technology. What this new Terminator is, that's not technology. You've gone into the worlds of wizardry and witchcraft.
Right, it just shows up as a hologram. Every time you turn somewhere, it's like Matt Smith, like, I'm right here. Like, you know.
Well, and John, what the John Connor Terminator could do is like, oh, you injected him with something and it transformed him into a robot. I mean, and then what that robot can do, it just got to the point where it's like, going back to what that first Terminator was, right?
Right.
I love that if they could find a way to do that, I'd be totally on board.
Yeah, but I'll also say that I don't want to see a sequel to Terminator Genesis because I hated that movie. I was very let down by it. I thought that they completely bastardized all the cool lore that they had in Terminator and Terminator 2.
They really
I
did.
don't want to see it. I'd rather stay home and play Sega Genesis.
Yeah, if they were gonna, like, I sell it, but if they were gonna do a sequel, they could take elements and remnants of what they did with I can't even say it.
Jenny Smith.
Yeah, Jenny Smith. And use other elements from, you know, they could perhaps use some elements from Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. They could try to do another reweaving, because that's what they did in this one. They were like, let's pick moments from the first two and forget about number 3 and 4 and then make a worse film. You know what I mean? It's like, or like a weird hodgepodge. It wasn't that horrible. I didn't hate it. But towards the end is when I started to hate, because everything they built up to, it just fell apart with the weird floaty Matt Smith and stuff. So, you know, so you could ruin a movie. Like, you had me for the first hour, rest of it's ruined. You know.
Now, to be fair to Genesis, though, that was an unfair comparison, because you would rather stay home and play Sega Genesis than an evening out with a beautiful woman.
Yeah, I would.
So I mean, it's not really a fair comparison.
As my girlfriend can attest to, I play a lot of Golden Axe.
All right, what's next?
As many of you know, the upcoming Warner Brothers / DC film Suicide Squad hits theaters after Batman vs. Superman in 2016 and will feature the appearance of a certain Dark Knight from Gotham in it. There are also rumors that Aquaman may have a short appearance in the film as well. With Amanda Waller mentioning Superman by name in the Suicide Squad trailer, many have speculated that the Man of Steel may appear in the film as well. Superman actor Henry Cavill was recently asked about a possible appearance in Suicide Squad, to which he said that he doesn't appear in the film at all. Mark, do you buy or sell Cavill's statement saying he won't appear in Suicide Squad?
I buy that Superman's upset about not being in Suicide Squad in that picture.
Yeah.
He is not a happy camper. I do buy this. I don't think you're going to see one lick of Superman in Suicide Squad. And I also buy that that's the right play to make, because we're not making another Man of Steel, or we're not making Dawn of Justice Part 2. It's Suicide Squad. It's about these villains that may become anti-heroes. So I like that Batman is in it. I like that Superman obviously is going to be referenced. He's around in this universe, but taking a page out of a lot of other comic book films is that you can mention people without actually having to have them in the film. I think that Superman would be more of a distraction in this universe than and again, my mind could change after I see Dawn of Justice and I see how they handle his current relationship with Earthlings, but as of right now, this seems like the right play to me.
Yeah, I completely buy it. I totally believe him, and it is the right play. Look, you do need one of the big two to make an appearance in Suicide Squad to help sell that movie. You just do. And it kind of is a testament, I think, to Warner Brothers' confidence in Batman v Superman. They're thinking, you know what, people are going to love Batman v Superman, so let's make sure when we start doing the big marketing push, you see Batman in that trailer to help bring people over who, let's face it, most of the people out there have no idea what the Suicide Squad is. Right. So putting one of the big two in there makes sense. Bringing Superman in wouldn't make sense. Now it's suddenly just Dawn of Justice Part 0.9 instead of, you know, that's what it would be. You don't need, and that's one of my big frustrations with all the comic book shared universes is why does everybody have to be in everything? Let's have some standalone films. So bringing Batman makes sense. Keeping Superman out also makes sense. So I buy it.
I don't buy it for only this reason. He doesn't have to say whether he's in it or not. And he could also be having had to sign an NDA. He couldn't tell you either yes or no. So if he says no, he could just be saying, you know, it's not up to me to tell you, you know. If he's in it at the very end, just shows up and, you know, fights, King Shark or whatever, we don't know what's going to happen in this movie. I don't think he would tell you, yeah, I'm appearing in. He wouldn't say it if he was going to make a cameo. I don't think he'd ruin it. So
you think Superman will at some point appear in Suicide Squad?
No, I'm not willing. I'm not saying it's either yay or nay. That he said no is just like, we've heard this so many times. Remember The Dark Knight Rises, I'm not this, or no, I'm not that, or this or that. And then they were lying. They're just like, no, I just didn't want to ruin it. So if he does show up as a cameo, it wouldn't shock me. It would be cool. And I think Batman had to be in Suicide Squad because they're reintroducing the Joker. You couldn't have the Joker without Batman. So it made total sense that it's like when I found out that it was Harley Quinn and the Joker, I was like, Batman has to be in it, otherwise they're going to ruin it. So it totally made sense that we don't know how big of a role he has. It could probably be like 2 or 3 scenes, but he has to be in it. Superman doesn't have to be in it, but it'd be cool if he showed up. I wouldn't.
So let me ask you this: you had to put $200 down right now on either yes, Superman shows up in this movie, or no, he does not. Where do you put your money down?
I'm gonna put it on. He does not show up in the movie. But I don't want to say he could be just doing what studio politics. You have to. If he showed up, it'd be cool. You know, I'd be happy if Waterman showed up.
That's
Code name Aquaman. Yeah.
Waterman. All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show now for mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can just email us anytime at collidervideo@gmail.com. Ashley, what is in the mailbag today?
Sam writes, "Hey Collider, my question is regarding Marvel's choice of casting Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I mean nothing against the guy, but I looked at his films and not one of them rang a bell. At this point, I do trust Marvel with everything they do, but I was still surprised when I heard this. How does this casting decision come across to you guys?"
Well, let's put it this way. Tom Holland was a bit of a surprise to me because at that moment, everybody had already been writing the story that Asa Butterfield, he's going to be it. And everybody ran with that. And I thought it would be too. I really did think it was going to be Asa Butterfield, but it turned out to be Tom Holland. But here's the thing. This is what I think a lot of us as film fans, we cross our wires a little bit. We equate well-known with talent, and that's not necessarily the case. I mean, look at who Warner Brothers DC, we go back to this a lot. They just cast this guy to play Cyborg, and everybody's like, well, we never heard of him. That means he's new. No, he ain't new. This guy's a Broadway actor. So you may not have heard of him, but he is loaded to the eyeballs with talent. Tom Holland, yeah, he's a name a lot of you may not recognize, but he's appeared in a couple of these smaller films. One, The Impossible, which is what more people out there will be familiar with, The Impossible, and he was really quite good in that. Then there was this other little film. It stories folks around this girl during the time that the war is breaking out, and it's a really, really cool movie. It's got How I Now Live, I believe is the name of it. How I Live Now is actually the name of it. And he was really solid in that. This is a talented kid. So don't confuse the fact that you haven't seen him in anything or heard of him in everything. He has been in stuff. He's shown that he's a talented kid. And so, yeah, was he my first choice? No, but he's definitely one of those monkeys in the barrel of, if you put one out of this barrel, you're doing okay. He was a name that's, hey, this is a good kid. He's a good name. He's shown he's got talent. I'm cool with it. But Schnepp, when the Tom Holland name came out, were you encouraged, recoiled? What did you feel about it?
I didn't know who he was. And then you just mentioned, I saw The Impossibles, and he was The Impossible. I think it was The Impossible, not The Impossible. The Impossibles is like a superhero series from the 60s.
The Impossible.
Which he was great
right
in.
After The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Stay tuned for The Impossibles.
That's right. With Tom Holland. Yeah, he's like the kid who stretches. But he was 12 in that. So I didn't even he didn't come up in my Rolodex of who's Tom Holland. It was because he's so young, and then he's just morphing and turning into a man over 4 years. That I saw How I Live Now, and I thought that was a great film. But once again, he's 13 in that film, so he doesn't register to me as oh, I saw him, he was great in that, but that's when he was a baby or whatever. He's still a little tiny, he's a kid, which is great because he's supposed to be in high school. We talk about the Fantastic Four; they were supposed to be in high school. That new Fantastic Four movie, and I keep forgetting that, and then I'm like, nah, all of them look like they're 25. This kid looks like he's 16. I think it's because he's 16. He's perfect to play a young Peter Parker, and it makes so much sense. That's why I'm interested to see how they play Spider-Man with Captain America, how they play Spider-Man with Iron Man, because those guys are in their 40s. Captain America's 100 years old now, so it's that's kind of interesting to me, that they actually cast a real kid who's going to be in high school, and I'm sure they're going to have those adventures of Spider-Man in high school for at least 3 of the movies, because those are great storylines, and they've reused them over the decades and decades. So I'm excited about the casting of this talented kid,
Yeah, and other than the fact that he is the proper age, it's not like they got the casting directors from 90210 to cast high school. We actually believe he's still taking those classes. Like John alluded to, this kid is also a veteran of theater, and I'm not sure if he's done Broadway, but I know that he's from England, right? So he's done a lot of work over there, stage in front of a live audience. When you combine that with his ability on screen, he has loads of talent. I had never heard of the name Tom Holland, even though I'd seen The Impossible. I wasn't aware that was the name of the kid in it, although he was really good. Asa Butterfield was a bigger name to me, so I was like, oh yeah, that fits as Spider-Man. But I trust Marvel with casting decisions, and I even trust DC now with casting decisions because everything they've done right so far, setting up Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad, seems to work okay. So when it comes to that, they put you through a rigorous process. The fact that this kid came out on top, he earned it.
All right, what's next?
Darshan Patel writes, my question is regarding possible movies made about hip-hop/rap artists after the success of Straight Outta Compton. There are already rumors of a movie about Tupac and Snoop Dogg. Do you think that this is a good idea? Can these types of movies be a thing for a couple of years if done right like SOC? If so, whose movie would you like to see? For me, it would be about the feud East Coast Biggie versus West Coast Tupac.
Yeah, I mean, all the ones that you mentioned there could be interesting. Generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of musician biopics, generally speaking. But, NWA they transformed, the genre, basically. They created a genre in many ways. They were so influential. And, their story happens in a time of, the civil unrest and how it all played in the background of what went on with the Rodney King incident and all that. That was just too rich of a story not to tell. And so a lot of the ones you mentioned could be cool, but for me personally, I think you have to go Run DMC. I mean, Run DMC, when you really think about it, who was the first rap group that white kids in Canadian high school would have heard of, or that basically like people across our culture would be able to identify? Who's the first rap group that anybody in our culture could identify?
Run, DMC.
And Jam Master Jay.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the guys who put rap on the map for a lot of people who never really listened to or knew anything about rap. It's all around the same era as Houdini and stuff like that.
Boys.
Oh my God, Fat Boys. Yeah, you need to stop that.
I gotta work on that a little bit.
But I would go. And now, how far do you go? Do you just do like the rise of Run DMC? Do you go all the way to the death of Jam Master Jay? What do you do? Do you go up to now where they're doing like home cooking shows? I don't know how far you go with their story.
Right.
But for me personally, I would go with a Run DMC story. I would go to see that movie. What do you think?
And you could also cast Aerosmith as themselves in the Run DMC story. They're all still alive and kicking.
Yeah, Run DMC put Aerosmith back on the map.
They did.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's totally
Walk
true.
This Way, yeah. I mean, I think the East Coast, West Coast, the Biggie versus Tupac story would be fascinating to me. I think that is a rich enough story to tell. You have to handle it delicately. It's got to be, I hate quoting Fox News, but it's got to be fair and balanced if you're talking about the East Coast versus the West Coast. And if they do that movie, get the guy who played Tupac in Straight Outta Compton to play Tupac in the movie. He sounded exactly like Tupac. I'd also like to see a Naughty by Nature biopic. How did they catch OPP? I would love to see the Baha Men story. Who did really let the dogs out first? And of course, I need to see how Sir Mix-a-Lot became so infatuated with big butts.
True story. Up where I grew up in Hamilton, right by Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and the acronym for the Ontario Provincial Police is the OPP. Like whenever you're talking in conversation up there, you're talking about the OPP. And so when that song came out, a lot of us thought, why are like Los Angeles rappers singing about our provincial police department?
Yeah, we're down with OPP, the police.
Totally. That's what we up there thought at first.
Popo, I'm down with them. I'm down with Public Enemy. I'd love to see
Public Enemy want to be good.
A biography of that group and how they formed and what happened and how influential they were, and also Beastie Boys. I think they're a group that also came up right around the same time as Run DMC after Run DMC had just been around for about a year or two, and they would be great to see. I mean, I think a lot of those guys were covered in Crush Groove. Like Crush Groove actually did the unofficial Run DMC origin, and also include a lot of these other rappers into that origin story. Notorious was already done with B.I.G. So I think mining some of these things, I'd love to see like a TV miniseries. I mean, my girlfriend Holly, after we saw Straight Outta Compton, was like, I'd like to see this as an actual television series because there's so much story there. It's so rich. It's like, that would be cool. Not just a documentary, but actual like an autobio that would go over the years,
All right, last question of the day.
Sam Israel writes, hey guys, my question concerns the credit giving of movies. Why does the director usually receive more credit than the actors themselves? For example, when a film says a Steven Spielberg film. I mean, sure, the director has a huge role in the making of the film, but isn't it the actors who really make the film come to life? Thanks, and very excited for Collider TV recaps.
Yeah, we're really excited about that too. And actually, that I think about, we haven't mentioned it on Movie Talk. We are expanding into a new television recap or after show network. We're launching with 6 shows. We're casting for them right now if you're interested. But look at my social media. You'll find all the information about that there. This is one of the things that is, a lot of people who are just average film fans, their first thought is, oh, it's the actor who makes the movie good or bad. Couldn't be further from the truth. We've said it before, we say it again. There's a reason why actors all want to become directors. There's a reason why all actors want to become directors, because it's the directors who tell the story. Actors are an incredibly important and very vital piece of the puzzle, but it's the director who takes all the pieces of the puzzle and puts them together. And it's the director who pulls the performances out of the actors and lets them, sets the context for them, lets them know how they need to act or how they need to be in the scene, whatever. It is the director who is at that lynch point that brings everything together. They are the storytellers in this. And so it's really funny to me still that a lot of people think, well, if this actor's in it, it must be good. No, because they're not the one telling the story. The one telling the story is the guy behind the camera, the director. Anyway, Schnepp, as a director, how would you handle that question? How would you address that?
Well, I think it's a fair question for people who
don't know the business.
Don't know the business.
Yeah.
So it's sort of an actor is one of the most important parts of making a film. If you are directing a film with a bad actor or actress, you're done. If you can't get them to act, if you can't get the emotional core out of the story, even if it's a great script and you're dealing with a wooden actor, your film's going to suck. So every part of the puzzle has to come together. And from a good story to an amazing script to a great casting director who gets those actors who can pull off the lines from an amazing writer to the editing, to the sound design, so you're kind of orchestrating things as a director and you're trying to get the best out of everybody. But why it says somebody's movie and it's the director's movie is because they're usually there from the beginning, maybe not from the very origin of the script, but sometimes they shepherd the script with the writer all the way through the production process to the pre-production, to the shooting, to the editing stage, to everything all the way to the final premiere. So that's why it's kind of more so their film, but it's all of it's a group effort. Anytime you work in media, unless you're I always say, unless you're writing a book or you're doing a painting, working solo, then that's your thing. But otherwise, the minute you step into the creative process, you're working with all these other people and everyone has to be on point. So that's my feeling on it.
Typical director speak. Just telling everybody what to do, taunting everybody else, wearing your Sasquatch artsy shirt on TV. Directors are clearly the most important part of making a movie, because think about it this way. When I watch a movie, I can't get through bad directing. If a movie is poorly directed, it's an awful film. You can compensate for subpar acting. And I hate to bring up, I love Keanu Reeves to death, but look at something like Point Break or like Bram Stoker's Dracula. He's not exactly winning Oscars for those movies, but because you had somebody who became a master of her craft, like Catherine Bigelow, or somebody who at the time was a master of the craft, Francis Ford Coppola, they were able to make a great movie in spite of a less than stellar performance. So you want to have everything fall into place perfectly. If it doesn't, if you have that director there that knows what he or she is doing, it can save a film.
All right, folks, that will do it for us for this installment of Collider Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, lots of great films playing over at our friends at AMC Theaters. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater, showtime, and of course, your movie ticket information. Make sure you subscribe to our Collider Video YouTube channel. It's the easiest thing in the world. Just click subscribe, keeping up to date on all the great things going on over here at Collider Video. And of course, our new recap network, which we are really, really excited about. Can't wait to start talking about some Flash and Blacklist and Empire and Arrow, whatever. Lots of great shows we got coming on that, of course. I want to thank the guys sitting at the table with me. First of all, sitting over here, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
More importantly, not where you can find me, but isn't Collider on Facebook? I always wonder about that, John.
Collider, yes, you should be following Collider on Facebook. Look in the description of this video. You'll find a link to our Collider Facebook page. Make sure you like us there and follow us on Facebook.
There's no reason for shameless plugs. We're on Collider. We're all family here.
Click like, damn it.
Click it already. Stop screwing around. And while you're screwing around, go to my website, www.tdoslwh, and rent or buy my film, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. It's a crazy documentary. If you don't know what it's about, it's in the title. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jon Schnepp and at TDOSLWH.
Mr. Mark Ellis. Mark, where can we find you other than American Ultra 2?
Well, you can find me in American Ultra 2. Ashley already found me online when she Googled XXX. You can also find me next weekend. I'm going to be at the Kansas City Improv kicking off my fall tour. Get tickets at markellislive.com. Twitter and Instagram at 5150Ellis.
And of course, our lovely host today, Miss Ashley Mova. Ashley, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram at Ashley Mova. Happy Monday, guys.
And you can follow me on the various social media networks, just on Facebook or on Twitter, just at Jon Campea. That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.